Healed family. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am back with episode 2 of the series that we have been into. And the title of the series is Breaking the Silence of Our Legacy. And so last week I posted a video that pretty much talked about the silence that we inherited. Today I'm going to be talking about the wound of parental absence, and we touched on it very briefly in last week's video, but today I want to go just a little bit deeper because I believe that so many of us have endured a childhood where one or both parents were absent, and we may or may not have taken opportunities to really reflect on and process and heal from, right, the wound of that parental absence. And so before I get started, I want to remind you that this channel of Every Detail Matters with Alexis Danielle was created with you in mind. I believe that every detail of our stories matter. I don't care how good, bad, ugly, or indifferent our stories have been throughout our lifetime. But I believe when you lift up the truth of your stories, the authenticity of who you are and where you've been and where you're going, that it can create an opportunity for us to live and live well. What does that mean? To heal and to thrive, not only for ourselves, but for our family, so we can do what? Rewrite the narrative. Listen, we are not our pain. We are not identified by what we've gone through, but rather we take the story of what we've gone through and allow it to fuel our purpose. So let's get into it. The wound of parental absence. Listen, when a parent is absent, it doesn't just affect your childhood. Have you ever thought about that? When you think, well, as you think back and really kind of remember your childhood and what it looked like not to have your parent or both parents. If you just look back on that time, right, you can think about how enjoyable it was or how difficult it was. Most of the time it was difficult to know that those who gave us life, our parents, specifically our mother and our father, was not there. That's hard to deal with, right? It's also hard to put a definition or a reason as to why they weren't there. Can you imagine a little child having to figure out and internalize within themselves why mom and dad wasn't there? So I want to just really lift up that when a parent is absent, it absolutely does not only affect your childhood, but it affects the way you love. It does in such a real way as it relates to our attachment styles. If it affects the way we trust, how well we are able to trust those that we're in relationship with. Look at it this way. Sometimes when we internalize parental absence, we think something is wrong with us. Mom wasn't here or dad left because of something I did. And so now the internal message that I may harbor within me is that people don't stay, they leave, right? And so if I believe that as a child, I carry that into adulthood. And so now if I get into a relationship, when I get into a relationship, I may still believe people don't stay, they leave. And so this therefore affects the way I love. It affects the way I trust. It affects the way I open up, and it affects the way I see myself as an adult. Am I worthy enough for somebody to stick around? Am I worth it for somebody to love me unconditionally because mom and dad didn't? They weren't here. So you see how it does not just stay in childhood, but it follows us, y'all, into adulthood. So today, we're talking about the invisible wound of parental absence. You don't see it. If I walk into a room, you cannot tell that my parents weren't there for me just by looking at me. No, it's invisible, and it's a wound that we've had to deal with, and only those whom we've let in, right, to really share what occurred for us would know that our parents were absent. absent, excuse me. And so I want to not only talk about the wound of parental absence, but I want to talk about how we can begin to heal from it. All right. So parental absence can also look different for all of us. Their absence could have meant they were physically absent. For some of us, it could have meant that our parents were emotionally unavailable, which can feel, or which could cause such an emptiness or a void because my parent is physically there, but yet very much so unavailable to me emotionally. And so another example is parental incarceration. Our parents were perhaps drug addicted, were incarcerated, and so they therefore were absent, or death, right? But regardless of the reason, you all, the impact is real, okay? And the reason why it's real for us, because we can begin to internalize rejection. I touched on that just a little bit, but rejection is a real thing. It's a hard thing. For those of us who have felt rejected at any point of our lives, know that it is very hard to deal with. It is very painful, right? When you begin to internalize rejection, and a few of the messages are, what's wrong with me? Or am I unworthy of love and presence, right? Those are some of the things that come up. But also, we can learn to minimize our needs. Now, this is big. So remember how I said in last week's video and in this one that this pain that we've endured, it shows up in our adult relationships and how we love and how we trust, which an expression of that could be minimizing my needs. So I may not even be able to articulate to my partner or to my friend what I need because I'm afraid. Will they meet it? Can they meet my needs? Especially if I believe that people do not stick around. You all see how these things kind of flow together when it's left unchecked and it has not been addressed nor healed, right? Okay, and then sometimes you overfunction. You try to overcompensate. So that puts me in the mind of people pleasing. So if I've told myself since childhood that people don't stick around, they don't stay, now I'm going to work extremely hard in my adult relationships to get people to stay with me. Now, for those of us that have done this at any point of our lives, you know how exhausting it is to do it. You also know how painful it is to overwork yourself to get somebody to stick around and they don't stay. Okay, so in my case, both of my parents were addicted to drugs, and so which means they were not present in the home with me. They did not raise me, and so I was blessed to have my great grandmother who stepped in and showed me so much love, and she nurtured me and she poured into me. I'm super grateful for that even still, right? But here's the thing, it did not take away from the grief I experienced by not having my parents in childhood and even growing up into an adult and realizing the impact that it had for me, right? So I want to introduce a few clinical terms. Attachment wounds. Attachment is real. Whether we want to or not, we have a style or method, if you will, of the way in which we attach. It is either classified as a secure attachment, which means I am able to experience emotional intelligence. I'm able to love and trust freely, or I've adopted an insecure attachment, which makes me anxious or avoidant, right? Avoidant, which means I'm not open nor available emotionally to receive or express love, or I'm super anxious. So if I'm in a relationship and my partner, let's just use a basic example, he doesn't answer the phone and I began to grow anxious. What's wrong? Did something happen? Did he leave? Do y'all see how this follows the message, the memory from childhood into adulthood? People don't stay, remember? So if my partner doesn't answer the phone, it's not that he's busy or he's at work or he stepped away from his phone. It's, is he okay? Did something bad happen, or did he leave? Why? Because everybody leaves. People do not stay. Right? Another clinical term, hyper independence. You all ever heard the saying, and it's unfortunate, but it's real, right? I don't need nobody. I got me. I got me, right? I got me. I'm gonna do what I need to do for me. I don't need nobody to look out for me. I don't need nobody to be there for me. And the sad reality of that is it's simply untrue. But because we've learned how to survive our pain rather than heal from it, we've adopted this hyper independence. I don't need anybody. Okay. So even in tying in faith, these parental wounds can even shape how we see God, right? Is God somebody I can fully trust as a father? So many different things to tie in, but let's wrap up with what healing can look like. Healing the wound of absence means simply telling the truth. I don't care how long ago it was. Tell the truth about what happened. Was mom absent? Was dad absent? Do you know why they were absent? How did it make you feel? What are some of the things that you remember about not having your mother and your father around? How did it make you feel? What did you do about it? How do you feel now, right? So don't just talk about what happened, but talk about how it made you feel. Because once you start articulating the impact of what happened and expressing it in feelings and emotions, that means you're tearing back the layers. You're opening things up so you can heal. You're addressing it. You're confronting it, even though it feels uncomfortable and painful still for a lot of us, right? But you're giving yourself an opportunity to heal so that you don't pass it on. Okay. So if you felt abandoned, you felt forgotten, you felt overlooked, I'm here to just remind you and to tell you, I see you. I see you. Your parents' absence was not a reflection of your worth. So now you began to rewrite a brand new story. That what you experienced in childhood is a part of your story. But here's the thing, you get a chance to determine what comes after it. You get a chance to determine what your worth looks like now as an adult, and how you've healed from it, and how you're walking in your liberty and your freedom. You get a chance to rewrite and tell a brand new story of how you trust God, right? To use those things that hurt you for his glory, but also for your purpose. So thank you so much for tuning in once again. I will be back next week with another video from this series, and I'm so glad that you tuned in once again. And if this has helped you, if it is encourage you, or perhaps you got a nugget of wisdom or some type of insight, or you know somebody that is right there in the middle of dealing with a parental absence, send a video to them. So healed family, until next time.